I'm very, very excited to share this video for you. I'm going to talk about one of my biggest mentors in marketing and a person who I attribute a lot of my success to, and that person is Frank Kern. I now run a media and marketing agency, but years ago, I used to run a language school. It was a middle-sized school. We were doing like pretty well for like the back-end operation. You will see, we're like, wow, like the amount of revenue we used to generate with the people that we had was remarkable. And a lot of this was thanks to the internet and how I could leverage that. The local economy died, and direct response marketing, I wouldn't say died, but started to generate significantly lower results for what we used to generate. And this is when I decided to get into Frank Kern's branding program. And it quite honestly changed everything for me. Today, I'm sharing you 4 big lessons from this program that had a significant impact on me and my business. And again, guys, I feel like most of you are like running into kind of like cupcake problems, okay? I navigated through hyperinflation, massive economic crash, just like a free fall of the country, like opening up the borders to get like a free cash flow, mass exodus of talent, like just people go crazy when like US inflation hit like 7%. I feel like where this company operated and like we did like local language stuff, the inflation was over 100% multi-years back to back. So this system helped me navigate that, okay? Let's set the stage. So this language school was based on like very traditional marketing, and I can like tell you my biggest inspirations and stuff I like consumed and become a disciple of: scientific advertising, breakthrough advertising, Dan Kennedy, influenced by Robert Cialdini, Eugene Schwartz, and I felt like cash advertising also had like a massive impact. But a lot of this, and also like I say, Ebb and Pay, right? All of this was like direct response marketing, right? Everything was about getting a very cold prospect, and in that moment of sale, just like selling that, and the entire follow-up process, if that even existed, was just selling them again. And if you're sophisticated, maybe like a slightly different angle, but you just like keep selling them. And this used to work great in like the early days of the internet. Like we had insane webinars where like one webinar on like autopilot would make like 20, 30K. And I was actually feeling really cocky at this point. Like our cold traffic funnel was legendary. And I was also fairly young, and I was like going out, spending the money, really proud of like the business I built, and kind of like showing off a little bit. But then God was like, yeah, I kind of need more of you. And just like everything crashed, like the whole economy crashed. And we needed a lot of things to be a lot more optimized, right? And I kind of also noticed something very interesting in this process, where the more we advertised for like the webinars, all of our like organic traffic also increased, right? Like all of our buzz increased, our like social numbers increased. And this was like, I think 2016, 17 to like 19 period, where like our social media efforts were like fairly low at this point. Like just something we felt like we needed to, because we're like a company and we need a like social media presence, but not something we're like putting active effort into. Here's what broke everything. So our webinars always converted well on the webinar, always. But we almost had like no follow-up sales, especially in comparison to like the webinar sales. And like as Frank Kern says, the money is always on the follow-up. And I understand like our situation was very unique and people were very cash strapped and like the sky was falling down. But still, I was like, we need to suck the maximum value out of every money we spend, because like every day, like because of inflation, like numbers were going up. It just, the currency lost so much value to the dollar, but then like they inflated it. It like 2.5x the buying power of the dollar before like the crisis. Everything was like your business as it stood need to be 3x more profitable to be at like the same place with like, I would say like not a couple of months, but like let's say within a year, right? Like, it was like, it's like insane entrepreneurial challenge. So this is actually like leading to somewhere very cool. In this period also, like direct response sort of died. And again, like I say died in air quotes, because what happened? There was the iOS updates, like the famous iOS updates where like Apple kind of killed direct interest targeting. And again, this could be like another video for like 30 minutes, but almost all cold traffic advertising went down dramatically and sharply. Now we have created like new systems to like get around that. And it's more like AI algorithmic focused, like creative based targeting, instead of like letting the software targets, instead of letting you do direct interest targeting, you let engagement make AI find likely targets. But again, that's like a whole separate video, like advertising. But at that year, like those answers weren't very clear, and just all of like the ads went down, and we were like a very cash flow company. So also competition got very fierce, right? Like before, I would say 2016 to 2020, internet marketing wasn't as big. Like I would say 2020 to like, it's just kind of like a late cutoff point, but you could kind of like sell something with like claiming benefits, making a case, and people would buy it. But now people are seeing so many offers and like so much stuff. A lot of people are very calloused and cold to online marketing. It used to be a lot easier to sell things like through direct response ads online. And also something interesting happened. CPMs went through the roof, and this is kind of correlated to competition, but I think it has all like other elements like inflation and like everything, or like competitive pricing, where like these platforms want to extract more money out of customers, but it used to be a lot cheaper to advertise as well. And of course, like the economy I was operating in just entirely collapsed, and it was like a very interesting period in my life. And like by collapse, like I mean like collapse, not like eggs are more expensive. Collapse more like Germany pre-Nazi rule, like World War I, hyperinflation of the mark level collapse. This is gonna be an overgeneralization, but as a frame of thinking, direct response requires a healthy economy where people could spend and they have money to spend and things are flowing and consumption is encouraged. Consumer confidence in either like your products, the offer. So in like Eugene Schwartz terms, not like a hyper-saturated, calloused market, more like an excited new market where you could like sell things, and trust in value propositions, which is kind of similar to the initial point, right? So most of things by and large has died. But I remember seeing this, right? I remember seeing brands crush it with very, very bad direct response advertising, but a very well-built brand, either personal or corporate. Like I've seen more personal, but I've seen them crush it. If people have spent the time to cultivate a brand, cultivate an audience, they could sell very expensive offers, because when things get tightened up, people do not take chances and go to people they trust, like, and the whole concept of this personal connection becomes a big deal. And before, there was a study, right? Before, people need a lot less touch points with a product, with an offer to buy. I recently read that on average, people need 17 touch points now to buy a product. Either like see, get offered, get convinced, have like brand exposure like 17 times before they actually buy something. And like through our like tracking on like back in either like Axios or like GA, you see that, like you see how many like average touch points before people make a sale, and those numbers are always increasing like year by year. And this actually bugged me, right? I watched guys whose systems I knew to be trash crush it, because like they spend time to build a brand instead of like creating a good product and actually helping people or having like really good cold funnels. And in this type of environments, people buy brands, not offers, not products. People buy brands. They buy you, what you represent, the vision, the message, the trust you build, and like the value you communicate through your branding efforts, right? Like through your content efforts, not actually like the product itself. So let's get to the Frank Kern revelation. I've become a long disciple of Frank Kern. I've used a lot of his concepts to build my cold funnel, to build my webinar funnel, and like ascending and descending offers, and like this sophisticated funnel that Hormozi is like currently teaching. Frank Kern is like a big granddaddy of all of those concepts. But branding was very new to me, and I felt like very icky to it at the time. I was like, this is like a waste of time, and you know, like direct response is king. Like I'm like a cold sale, or I resonate with that, and I want to focus on like the product and the customer, and my funnel would sell for me, which kind of worked out very well for like 5-6 years. So I was right until I wasn't. In 2019, I got into Frank Kern's intent-based branding, and this is like his like legendary branding concept, and it featured many of the biggest revelations I have had in all of my entrepreneurial journey. This course itself would be like many dozens of hours, and I'm gonna share you like 4 very big takeaways that I got from it in this video. I have personally seen just how structured Frank was. And again, currently in like our current day, Alex Hormozi is like a big proponent on the also. So in content strategy, content is recording in batches, like have certain inputs and like certain outputs, and everything is kind of like systematized and automized, but people don't really sit down to like record content. Like people have like content systems that they execute instead of like, hey, what's like this week's content, right? And then, like Frank Kern was like the person who got me into systems thinking with content instead of, hey, what's valuable that I want to share, of this like more individualistic, more like artistic approach. And Frank was very strategic, right? Like he would have content for like creating emotional connections, engaging with people, providing value, generating authority and trust, and everything would be in this like very harmonic way. And I have used it like by myself and so many clients by now, and it always still works. So after implementing this, we started getting organic sales, which we kind of never had. Like we always had incredible word of mouth sales, a lot of referrals, but not like organic. They don't know us. They get into like our content, they get into our brand and actually buy before like without getting exposed to this like direct response funnel. And I was like, oh, this is nice. So 4 lessons. Lesson 1, strategize and plan your inputs. This was like the biggest lesson for me as like a more artistic person. And a lot of business owners I have seen that do not get great results with branding or content marketing always want to record stuff where like, hey, I want to talk about this or I want to say this. And it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. You can't do this all the time. It will not fill up your pipeline. You need to be more systematized with your content creation, with your approach. You need to follow the ultimate content formula. You need to serialize your content. You need to have infinite content frameworks. All of this I kind of like teach in my videos and we kind of do as a service if you pay us. But yeah, like Frank Kern was like my big like, oh, this makes so much sense. And again, like now Hormozy also has like a very similar kind of system where he has like content days, batch content, certain things like, but Frank Kern was like the granddaddy of all of these concepts. So he would have like 3 types of content. 1, emotional connection, relatability based content. 1, value, educational type of content, and 1, sales focused content, right? And he would have like certain quotas every week that is like, oh, this is more like a relating piece. This is more like an educational how-to piece. This is more like sales piece. And like a more sophisticated approach where he would create different types of content for like different platforms. With like the emergence of short form content, you can actually repurpose all of these and like use cross-platform. It used to be a lot higher effort back then, but this was like a big game changer for me. I was feeling rather lost on like what to post with what intensity, what kind of stuff, but this was like a great vector for me, like great guide map. So that is lesson 1. Get clarity, have a systematized approach to your content, to your inputs. Do not be in the moment with your content. Lesson 2, and again, this is super important, repurpose everything. Like if you don't do this in this year, like I don't know what you're doing. Like you're just like, this is basically malpractice. Your shareholders should sue you. But like you should repurpose everything. And again, Frank is kind of legendary for this. He would literally speak into a microphone in an hour, and then VA would turn that like a rambling hour into books, like ebooks he would sell, and like would like have ascending and descending funnel pieces into, right? Blog posts, video scripts that he would then like record podcasts or videos, and social captions for his like Facebook and Instagram posts of just one rambling like video recording. And I was like, oh my God. And this is still like something we do with like almost all of the clients we work with on like a more production basis. But I was like, this guy just like free flows and it becomes this like multi-month, multi-platform content with like repurposing and strategic like integrations of systems and people, right? And we kind of have our own backend for that. But I was like, this is genius. Like I would kind of think separately of like a podcast or a YouTube video or like an Instagram, and with like Frank Kern and with this system, I was like, wow. So sick, right? Like incredible. So I've learned that like you need to repurpose everything. Nobody has enough time, and content doesn't have enough individualistic value to kind of justify your time investment, but it had infinite, massive, evergreen, forever value that justifies all the investment. But you need to use and introduce leverage in your content creation efforts to make the math work in your favor. And again, in today's age with AI, short form content, media agencies, this is like all the easier. Back in the day, a lot of business owners would kind of get into these branding platforms, either kind of train someone in-house or do it themselves to kind of like implement these systems, and it would become like a core part of your business instead of just hiring someone and like having all of this automized like a very reasonable cost. So yeah, like Frank was massive for this. So an actionable tip for you could be just would record one podcast, which we did like with many clients. But let's say you just record one podcast, right? And you can have like more intention into that recording. But for the case of this video, I'm just saying record one podcast. That transcript turns into blog posts. That transcript could turn into social posts. Those clips would become videos that you could post cross-platform. Those videos or clips would become shorts or short-form content that you can post cross-platform. And you can repurpose all sorts of content across multiple platforms. Like those blog posts could be repurposed into LinkedIn posts. Those videos could be shared on like Facebook as well as Instagram. Shorts are like always all like cross-platform nowadays. Like audio recordings could be like podcasts, or you could kind of like also put that into YouTube, right? You have a lot of options. They give a lot of repurposing angles to like a lot of your content of just recording one podcast. So one input, infinite output. And I was like, wow, like this is sick. So that's like a big lesson I learned from Frank Kern. So lesson 3, and this was hard for me. Like I'm like a very, I don't want to say logical, I'm like an emotional guy, but like I'm like a very value outcome based guy. And this was a hard pill to swallow for me. But emotional connection matters more than value. And that this was probably like the biggest mindset shift for me, because all of my posts, I kind of come from this old school Eben Pagan type of marketing where like you give away your best content for free, you always want to change people's lives, provide maximum value, and that used to work a lot better than it works right now. But with Frank Kern, I would put proactive intention on emotionally connecting content. Like before, I would maybe like have like a how-to or like value-based content, and maybe I would kind of like tell a story or be like personable and relatable, and that would kind of maybe like create some connection. But like this was like, oh no, your content must be like emotional content, like the whole content should be, or like that should be like the point of focus, right? If within that emotional content you want to provide value, sure, but like the point of the content was that emotional connection, was that like relating. That was like the biggest, like the single biggest mindset shift I've had, and I was like, and even like right now in all of our clients, like we do like priming for podcasts, and we were like, hey, like connect the story, if it's like injury, like share a struggle, like, and we always like prime things into clients to like create this emotional connection with like our scripts. Many videos would be about like first emotional connection, then if at all like value or like outcomes, etc. And this was life-changing for me. And like outcomes were also incredible. And people buy through connection, not through value. Like the biggest brands like Rolex, Cartier, like Ralph Lauren, Apple, like they don't really have great value propositions, but their brands are incredible. Their brand value, their brand trust, like is a lot better than actually their offer, their product, or their value proposition. Like a Grand Seiko is probably better than most Rolex, right? Like sort of like watchmaking perspective, right? Or like a Lange & Söhne, like for example, right? But like they don't have the brand of Rolex. And a lot of these brands do not communicate the offers and products through like a value proposition kind of way, but more through like messages, stories, images, visuals, etc. And I was like, okay, got it. So actionable. Frank would post emotional, relatable posts like stories, quotes, personal experiences, kind of like hearsay testimonial type of posts, anecdotes, and I was like, oh, I need to make these like a priority. He would have like educational value posts, like could be like 2-hour videos or single sentences, but like again, like the point of that single sentence of the like Instagram code post, let's say, is to provide education, is to provide value, not to emotionally relate. Like it would kind of like shift your mental frame in like how you engage that content. I was like, oh, this is cool. So, and then he would have like sales posts where like the point of the post is to sell. And usually he would kind of make these short and to the point, and he's like, hey, I got this offer, you can check it out at this site. The key insight was I was always like a value first guy. My whole vision was, with my whole like brand, company, content, it doesn't matter who I am, it doesn't really matter what the brand is, like all that matters is like the service and the product and like happy customers and testimonials and like just like the whole value like people get out of it. Like it doesn't matter who I am, it matters what you care about and what you get out of my stuff. But Frank was like, it actually matters a lot who you are and what your brand is and what people think about you, right? Like it will kind of like rewire a lot of marketing knowledge of like, you know, being really just focusing on like the customer and like the product, again, the person, right? And just trying to find solutions for people. And it kind of shifted my thinking like, oh, I also need to focus on me, like how my optics, how I present myself, how relatable I am, the emotional connection. Like it was like a big shift in that way. Like if you talk about your struggles in like learning German before teaching people how to learn a language, they're a lot more likely to listen to your actual value and they're a lot more likely to buy from you. So here's like the hard truth about value, especially in these social platforms. Most people consuming your content, unfortunately, in this day and age, aren't exactly in like a value seeking mode, but they're like seeking emotions. Like they're seeking like either entertainment or just, you know, wasting time, like spending time. They're in entertainment mode, they're in like beta brainwave modes, and they want to feel things, they want to have the tingles, they want to have emotional connections, rather than just like learn something. And this is like a mind melt, okay? But the less value you give, but the more value they feel they received, usually is a lot better than the more value you give and the less value they feel they received. And this is like a biggest, guys, this is so critical, just please listen up. Like this is the biggest problem in hard to execute, but execution type of content, where like when people receive the value, because it's hard and because it doesn't feel instantly rewarding, they don't feel like they received the value. But if it feels rewarding, even if it's not like that valuable, they feel like they received the value, and they are a lot more likely to actually receive more value from you further down the road. And again, this is like a personal example from the language school. And actually, like we were, how can I phrase this in like a non-NDA breaking way? We did like a massive content program with one of the biggest apps, and still like one of the biggest like language learning apps, and we would do all of their like local content. And you could create like a carousel post, right? Like on Instagram, let's say, to actually teach people A to Z how to learn vocabulary at a native level, at like intuitive, perceptual level, not like a translation level, in like a carousel post, like perfectly, and they would have zero issues with like learning vocabulary for the rest of their lives. But the problem is they need to trust that post, they need to execute it, it will feel difficult, and usually it's not like this instant fix. Like they need to, it's like the pathway and the process and the road, but they kind of need to execute it for a while and kind of like struggle through it for it to get right. Like this is life-changing content. If you kind of gave 30 minutes into it, it would save you like 10 years, but it would always flop. But if you create a content about like a hard to pronounce word with like a local pronunciation and maybe like a picture of it, that will crash. And the people are like, oh, I didn't know it would like get pronounced like that. Now I know like so much from pronunciation, and like now I feel like an American. Like now I feel so cool. Like I feel like I learned something, and they got like zero value out of that post. They just got like 5 seconds of engagement and minimum dopamine release, and boom, they're happy. And if you have a good product and service, they would actually buy your product because you just make them feeling happy, and then you could actually help them, instead of having this like insanely high effort carousel post that will like save their lives in like 30 minutes for 10 years, but like, it just wouldn't get traction. The sad truth is your content should be prioritized for dopamine release, not actual results. You can kind of, if you can balance it, you can do both. You can have like rewarding to listen to content with a lot of like motivational anchors throughout it, while still like this educational how-to content, but I wouldn't really recommend that. That's like a very high-end, high-level thing for you to do as like a normal business owner. And if you were to pick one, you should always pick emotional connection and the person feeling like they received value over they actually receiving value. And here is the lesson 4, which is kind of similar to lesson 1, but you should systematize everything. Lesson 1 was more about like strategizing and inputs of content production. This is just systematizing everything. Frank creates massive amount of output from 1 or 2 days of work through multiple months. He knows his inputs, what type of post he's doing, and his structure. He sits down like once a week, schedules the whole week, and plans what post to create, then uses leverage to create them. It becomes a machine, not this weird artistic creating effort every single time. And this is like very important to understand. And because Frank is an expert marketer, he could kind of do it with like lower level people, kind of like VAs, where he will kind of like manage the process, or really kind of like an A-level marketing guy who would like oversee that whole process. But again, like the best guys who could do them are like kind of expert level marketer. Like the CEO is this like expert level marketer. This is very tech savvy, like Hormozy, Frank Kern, etc. Right? And kind of like our services are offering those to people who aren't that. So implementing these 4 tips had a tremendous impact on my business, and I would just go on to create like a media and marketing agency, so I could like sell these services and what I create from Frank Kern to like a lot of businesses. And I really credit a big portion of my success to things I have learned from Frank Kern. And I hope this video was very, very helpful for you, as all of these concepts were very helpful for me. I believe branding is the biggest play in this day and age. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that. This is actually why I'm creating our own like personal and corporate brands right now. And I don't enjoy being on the camera that much. Right? I would much rather help someone do this rather than do this myself. But I truly believe this is the biggest play. And like I feel like it's an IQ test not to do this. And I just like focus on your inputs, create good high value content, and that's it. And if we just increase leverage throughout all metrics and like all areas of the business. And again, if you want help with any of this, whether it be consulting, done with you, done for you in any capacity, feel free to get in touch. We probably have like a scheduling link down below, and I would love to talk to you. And if not, just keep watching, because I will continue to provide incredible value through these videos. This is Ozzy from BDM signing off, and I wish you a fantastic day.